started
Sorry,
working.
I thought I hit record. Okay, let me let me
We
restart.
can, yeah, we can start again.
Oh
Yeah.
God, that's embarrassing. Okay. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. Today I'm talking to Luis Javier Henaine, the co-writer and director of Disappear Completely, which is coming to Netflix on April 12th, 2024. I'm going to talk to him right now, and while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. I'll spend a lot. Thank you.
Mm.
So, thanks so much for joining me today. I've got Luis Javier Henaine, the co-writer and director of Disappear Completely, which is coming to Netflix on April 12th, 2024. It is a wonderful, slow burn horror thriller that has just this really wonderful style, a great use of practical effects, and an amazing use of sound. I really enjoyed it. It was a nice surprise for me, and I'm excited to talk to him. So, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So, you are a co-writer on this film. At what stage did you come into this? Was it like during the original treatment, or did you come in after like an original concept has been made? How did you get involved in this?
Well, the original concept was written by Ricardo Aguado-Fentanes, who's the original writer. He started working on this screenplay about 20 years ago. And I came on board in 2017. So he had been working on the screenplay for a long, I mean, 14 years, 13 years,
Oh my
and
gosh.
yeah, a long time.
I'm glad the screenplay didn't disappear completely also, because that would
Yeah,
have been sad.
yeah, I mean, he had patience,
Yeah.
he had a lot of patience for this film. And then that's where I mean, in 2017, that's where we started working together on the screenplay and finished the thing you're watching now. Yeah.
Perfect. And were you always set to direct this movie, or is that just something that kind of evolved as you were working on the screenplay? And you're like, I can do this. Like I know what what how best to direct this.
Well, it's interesting because I have done two films before, two comedies actually. I've done two comedies before this film, and the writer Ricardo, he saw my first film. Actually, I had done just one film when I met him, the first film, Happy Times. And there's a couple of scenes in the film where I paid like an homage two of my favorite horror films, which are Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And he just saw those two scenes and he said, "Oh, this guy must like horror." So he sent me his screenplay, and he sent me a couple of screenplays, and this is the one that I kind of connected with immediately. And he invited me to direct it, and from the start I said, yeah, I want to direct this film. I've always loved horror, and I've always loved genre films, and I've always wanted to do one, but I also love comedy. So yeah,
I mean, those are not very complimentary. I'm glad that you're able to kind of cross over
yeah,
and do horror. That's really interesting that that was the kind of genesis of this film. Also, that's really fascinating.
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
So I loved Santiago's character. He's such a tough character to play because you have to like empathize with him and feel pity for him, but he's also, kind of a selfish person and kind of a bad person in some respects. How did you find Harold? How did you get him to like sign on? Because I thought you did it perfectly. I thought you showed Santiago's flaws, but then also gave the audience enough like empathy and care for him to really kind of want to help him in his plight.
Yeah, that's an interesting question as well, because I've always like in all my films, I have like a main character who's kind of selfish and annoying, like an anti-hero, they're not the most likable characters, but I like how they have this arc throughout the story. And I think the main thing that makes them uh, likable, or the audience can or empathetic characters, is the actors. The actors bring a lot of their personality in these characters, and with Harold, he I've never met him before this film. We had like a normal casting process. I mean, it was during COVID, so we had to do it through the cameras and like the screen, like a conference, like this. So that was difficult, but after I met him, I really liked his performance and the way the choices he made, and the presence he had like on screen, even though I hadn't met him in person. But after that, I saw this series, this TV series called 000, and the character he played was very, I mean, very scary, but also like very intense. And I thought, oh my God, this is a great actor. So I said, this is the guy. This is the actor who has to play the part. And working with him, we talked about it. We talked about how to how to make this character like selfish and egocentric, but also have this deep
Like,
down
yeah,
like this humane or something
like he has redeeming qualities, or you know,
yeah,
he has
qualities. And
he has,
he's
you know, things that the audience, you know, wants to him to get and like feels pity
so
for
it's
him.
like a very contrasty thing there, but it's difficult for unlikable characters to be likable.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I thought, you know, it was good. Like you kind of see the things that he's striving for, and it is selfish, and he does kind of treat people poorly, but you can see what he is going for, and how that's always just out of reach for him.
Yeah, and one of the things that the film, I mean, it's saying is that even though he's like this selfish and very, you know, um, full of himself, this character, he has no, I mean, he has no feelings for anyone or anything, and yet by losing his senses, he starts regaining his humanity, you
Mhm.
know? So
Yeah,
that's very interesting for me.
yeah, for sure. And speaking of losing the senses, I loved the way that you like portrayed this. You know, one of my biggest pet peeves is when, you know, like films explain too much when the audience can just understand it. And I loved how you just like let the performance kind of hint at what was happening. And so, you know, was that the way that it was in the script? Was that something that you chose? Because I just liked how you trusted the audience to like realize, okay, he's losing a sense of smell. He's losing some other senses. Like this is weird. You know, something must be going on with him.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I also like the films that don't over-explain things. I hate it when they do, and I don't need that. I mean, I can understand what's happening if it's well, constructed in the film. I can understand it. And actually, in one of the early versions of the screenplay, it was over-explained, so we had to change a lot that. Sometimes when you're writing a screenplay, you're thinking, oh, the audience is not going to understand this, or no, I need to put this in place, or try to explain this a bit, but then you see it on the film, and you say this isn't necessary. You can understand perfectly. So yeah, I try to eliminate or erase those things from the script, from the screenplay. Like, I don't need this explanation. It's too long and it's boring, and I just let's like they say, no, show don't tell. So it's like I try to go by that.
No, for sure. And I think it was a great choice. I loved it. And one of the I think most striking things was the sound, like the use of sound, especially when that sense is on the fritz. Was that tough to do? Was that tough to like have the actors portray that? Because it was really well done. I loved how it like kind of progressively got worse, and then kind of towards the end, it was just a really amazing kind of experience to have.
Yeah, that was tough. Well, it was tough in various ways. First with the act with Harold, because it's very difficult for a person who has all of his senses to portray the losing of them, So for him, the most difficult one was the loss of touch. That
Gotcha.
was the most difficult for him to portray. We had to take some licenses, like some creative licenses there. But regarding the sound, yeah, I knew from the start, since I read the screenplay for the first time, I knew how I wanted to end the film, and I knew what I wanted to do with the sound, even though those two senses weren't in that version of the screenplay. But I knew I wanted to make like the film have like a sensory experience, like be something that immerses the audience, make it like an immersive film. So with the sound, even though I saw this before, I mean, we started working on this film before I saw Sound of Metal, which then go ahead and win an Oscar. I had this idea, and I saw it, and it was incredible. And I met with the mixers of the film and everything, and they were supposed to work on the film at one point, but that didn't work out. Um, I said, okay, let's do it differently. Let's try to take on the idea that I originally had, and then just go all the way, like take it all the way, and just make it like it's there, but you don't know if it's like something wrong with the picture or if it's something. So it was difficult also because the sound designer didn't want to end it like the film ends. No, he was afraid. He was like, no, 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 people are gonna hate it, and you're not gonna understand anything. We have to leave it like, yeah, a little bit distorted, but maybe not so much. And I was like, no, 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 no. We have to make it gradually, and we have to make it like very rough, like very difficult for it to be understood. And in the end, I convinced them, and I convinced the producer as well, because he didn't want to either. And they wanted to like make this traditional cut, like, oh, like the POV stuff, like, oh, if we go to his POV, then we can hear it like this. But if we're like in the like a general POV, then we can hear it normally. So no, I said, no, 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 this has to be like a whole thing.
Yeah, and it was striking. I loved it, especially at the very end when you're just like, it's so intense because you were experiencing what's happening to him, and you just like understand his plight and understand like the depths that he has to go to kind of make this choice at the end, which I thought it was
Yeah,
brilliant. I loved it.
thanks.
One thing I was curious about though, as the sound is degrading, I watched it in with English subtitles, so there were subtitles the entire time. Did you put like Spanish subtitles up, or do
Um,
people have to strain to hear it?
yeah, no, no, actually, there aren't any. I mean, I specifically didn't want to put those, but even there, obviously, we had like the theatrical run here in Mexico, and people didn't understand what was happening. It's like, I don't understand what's going on. But I think that made it even more intense and more immersive. And the reason I decided to put them in English was because you need to know what's I mean, get a grasp of what's going on.
Mhm.
Otherwise, if not, you're not gonna understand what happens after that and how he gets to the next point. So yeah, I kind of something I it's get lost in translation, you could say, but it was necessary for the understanding of the film, even though in Spanish, you kind of get like a few words and you can understand it, like the whole, like overall thing, but not the specifics.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess I'll have to brush up on my Spanish to really experience this
Yeah,
film
yeah,
properly.
yeah, yeah.
And one other question I had, so without, you don't have to spoil it, but I was curious, was the ending always the way that it ended, or were there other versions that had different choices that Santiago might have made?
Well, talking about the specific choice he has to make at the end. Well, actually, yeah, there were several endings before I came on board, and even after I started working on the screenplay, we had a few endings. Actually, one of the endings was more elaborate, more like a more, you could say, Hollywood ending, like with the cops arriving and all that stuff. And I just wanted to make it more intimate and more um but
Well,
regarding the choice, that wasn't even a thing before this ending. Like he didn't have to make a choice. It was a different ending completely. I made the decision to put that in there because I needed for him to have like an ultimate decision he had to make, like the most difficult decision he had to make in order to save himself. So that's why I went there. But it was completely different. That didn't even existed actually.
another very amazing choice. I loved that ending, the conflict that he had and the decision that he had to make. I thought it was really well done. So another great choice that you made for this film. I'm really glad that you were the one to take up the reins on this because I thought it was brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
well, it's obviously a collaborative effort, and we had like several ideas, but I'm you could say Ricardo was more optimistic, and I was more pessimistic. So our views were different, and when they clashed, we came up with this stuff. And but otherwise, I wanted the film to end this way because this is my view of what has to happen to someone like him, like Santiago.
Good collaborative process. I think it's a strong collaboration overall. I know we have limited time. I'm going to switch to a lightning round. They're just lightweight questions about the film. I want to see how your personal experiences map to things in the movie. You can feel free to skip any of them. I won't be offended, but I try to keep them very answerable. First question: do you have like an actual like photography camera?
Yeah.
I assume you probably had a couple since you're the director, but I wasn't sure. Maybe you
I
only
have
had
like 3 or 4. Yeah.
Have you ever like developed a picture? Like actually developed?
Yeah, actually, when I was in school, we had like this dark room, and we developed in black and white and color, and we did everything.
That's awesome. So
Yeah, it was
you were
fun.
training for this even when you were in school.
Yep.
Uh, Now, if you had to lose a sense, which sense would you choose to lose?
Um, well, difficult question. I guess smell.
Smell's a strong one. I would probably do taste, but I could see taste or smell being the ones that would be the easiest, I
Because
guess, to give up.
I enjoy food too much. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Uh, have you ever felt like you were cursed?
Hmm, maybe, maybe. Could say.
All right, yeah, I think we all go through those experiences, so that makes sense. Have you ever like tried to cast a spell either jokingly or maybe seriously? I don't know, maybe you have a
Oh,
little bit of
no, I haven't
witchcraft in
done that. I haven't done that, no.
you. Have you ever like created a voodoo doll maybe for fun or jokingly or maybe real?
No, 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 no. But when I was a kid, I got curious about that. Well, after watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, I was like, I want one of those dolls.
There you go.
But no, I never did.
You could have created that and had a very different life path if you would have created
Yeah.
that doll.
Yeah.
A dog features very prominently in this movie. Are you a dog person? Do you have a dog?
I am not.
Okay.
I'm not that person. Yeah. That's why it happens what the yeah.
That,
So
that,
I'm
that,
looking into the film. Yeah.
that makes sense. And the last question. This film has Santiago finding something very strange in his house. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a witchcraft object, but have you ever found anything like very strange in your house or somewhere you were living?
No, not so far, and I hope not to ever.
Fingers crossed. Yes, if you
Yeah.
find that is usually the start of a horror movie, so you know the genre.
I have not, but you know what? I have a friend who what I took him to his house one time. I drove him to his house, and he said, "Come down. I want to show you something." And outside his building, there was like this like I don't know, like a container with a dead chicken and a paper there, and like a piece of paper and some liquid, like thing. And he said, "This is witchcraft." And he's the one who told me a lot of of very dark stories. And yeah, he was there, and he said this has been here for like 2 weeks, and no one has taken it because they're afraid. That's one of the stories. And I want to hear another one.
Of course.
When we were scouting for a location, actually for the final, like the final scene, no, well, before the final scene, like when he goes to the woods and all that, that location, it's called Ajusco here in Mexico. It's a place in Mexico called Ajusco, and it's like there's mountains and like the woods and all that. And we found like a big trash bag, like a black one, and it was filled with bottles, like soda bottles or water bottles. And inside those bottles, there were like again pieces of papers and burnt stuff. And I'm telling you, more than 100 bottles. This is
Oh my
was.
gosh.
And then it was very scary. And then on the sides, there were like kind of sculptures and very strange things, and like the rocks positioned in a very particular way. and like twigs and all that, but also shoes, clothes, blood, bones, a lot of stuff, very scary stuff. And we asked the person who was showing us the place, and he said, "Oh yeah, people come all the time in the night without permission. Obviously, some of them even hang up on trees and do their rituals hanging in there." And yeah, we were very scared, and I was like, "Do we wanna shoot here?" And in the end, we did shoot it. It was the best location, but it was very scary. And because it was a night shoot, so we were going to be there like alone at night. But yeah, that's another kind of. I mean, very. We had to treat it with respect, you know.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like the perfect place for a witchcraft den, because it was. So that makes sense. But yeah, I see the concern that you had.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the film is coming to Netflix on April 12th, 2024. You are getting the word out, letting people know about it. Hopefully they all check it out. But after people see Disappear Completely, what can they look next for you? Do you have any other projects on the horizon? Any other dips into the horror genre? Are you going back to comedy?
Yeah. Actually, I'm going back one comedy and a dramedy, but I'm also exploring, another horror film. Nothing set yet, but
All right. Well, I hope that that horror film does come to fruition, because Disappear Completely was phenomenal. I really loved it. This is Luis Javier Henaine, the co-writer and director. Thank you so much for joining me.
thank you for having me, David.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I love the movie. It was such a good surprise. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's Luis Javier Henaine, the co-writer and director of Disappear Completely, which is coming to Netflix on April 12th, 2024. It is a really well done, tense, slow burn horror thriller that has just this great style, a lovely use of practical effects and sound, and kind of a shocking ending. I definitely think you should check it out when it comes to Netflix on April 12th, 2024. And if you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.